Hello everyone, this is Chef Jim Reedy and this is Giacomo Cook's Quick Cooking Solution. Thank you for joining us once again. As promised, today we're going to talk about the sirloin steak. Today is June 1st, and a couple of days ago was Memorial Day, which was the official beginning of the grilling season. So this is perfectly in time with all your grilling needs. The sirloin is a steak that a lot of people prefer because of the low amount of fat that it has in it. But it's also a very complex steak to pick out and to cook. And today we're going to go over the steak itself and what to look for. Okay, what we're looking at here is two great looking sirloin steaks. Both of these are Black Angus USDA choice. Now I found with the Black Angus they're in the upper 1/3 of the choice, if you get them in the choice obviously, and they're just about as good as any prime steak I have ever had. Now with the sirloin it's not quite as important to have a prime because you're never going to get a sirloin that's going to be as marbleized and is going to be therefore as tender as a New York strip or a ribeye. So a choice is perfectly fine, even a good select. Here's what to look for in a steak, and I got these two good examples because both of these have some very important points. I really like this muscle, this upper muscle that you'll find here in a lot of the sirloin steaks. And usually when you get it from the top of the cut, you'll find this big muscle here. It's got a good consistency, kind of reminds me a little bit of the ribeye, and when seasoned well, it really is good. The other reason why I took this other steak is you see this steak here, the muscle isn't very large, but the reason why I took this is because it's got a little part right over here. Now the texture of this part right here, okay, is a little different than the rest of the sirloin. It's got a little mass of gristle right here. You'll always find it opposite to that big muscle that I was talking about. The problem is you usually don't find it on the sirloin, and when I go ahead and find this, I get it. The reason why is because this is kind of where the bone of the sirloin goes. And normally, unless it's cut wrong, you won't have this part right here. What this is a little part of the fillet. Now you used to be able to get bone-in sirloins, which you don't find anymore. Okay, so when whoever cut this meat cut out the sirloin, they left a little bit of part of that fillet part right here. You can tell because it's a little more red and it's definitely a lot more tender to the touch than the other meat. Whenever you see this, you're just getting a bonus, so grab one that has this little piece of meat. But in general, you want to get something that is nicely marbleized. It's about as marbleized as you're going to find a sirloin. And if you're like me, you're going to like this portion right here of the steak, the big muscle, so I focus on getting a good portion of that. Like I said, you will not find this portion right here in most, that fillet portion, but if you're lucky enough, you get that. That's usually a real small area, just about as big as this, is about as big as they get, and that'll add an extra taste to your sirloin. The other thing you got to really look for in a sirloin is the size of the sirloin, the thickness. You do not want to go any bigger than an inch, and you don't want to go any smaller than 3/4 of an inch. Any smaller than that, you're really going to get that diner type steak, that cheap diner type steak you see as a breakfast steak for the sirloin, and you don't want that. Any thicker than that, your meat's going to be really tough, and it's going to be very hard to actually get it to the tenderness that you want that makes it a really good and juicy steak. So keep that to about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and you'll really enjoy it. I know that's a lot of information that we just gave you here on the sirloin, but the other important thing about the sirloin, above the size and above what to look for, is the sirloin is one of those steak meats that you really have to marinate. That's my opinion. I really think that's absolutely necessary in a sirloin. I don't advise to marinate on a ribeye, on a New York strip, or definitely not a fillet, but on a sirloin, it's really necessary. And you want your favorite marinade that is a wet marinade, not one of those dry rubs. You definitely want something. I personally use olive oil and wine and a few Italian spices, and it comes out really delicious. So make sure you marinate it. The way I marinate is about 2 to 3 hours, but you can marinate it a little bit longer, and then put it on the grill, cook it up a medium rare, and you'll have a delicious sirloin steak, just like you like it, low of fat, healthy, and really tasty. Thank you very much once again for joining us. We're going to be talking next time about the most famous cut of steak there is, the filet. And after the series on the steaks is done, we're actually going to be talking about how to grill the steaks and how to marinate the steaks as well. So thank you very much for joining us for Giacomo Cooks, and I hope to see you again soon. Ciao e arrivederci.